Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Do a Picture Today podcast. I am Hannah. I am here with Mr. Tommy Lewis. Hello, Tommy.
Hello. Nice
Hello.
to see you.
Nice to see you too.
Is that you already impersonating my accent?
I didn't even try. See, that's what I mean. It's gonna get worse. Oh God. By the end of it, I'll be referring tea and crumpets. Don't worry. Oh Jesus. Okay, so really quickly before I hit record, you just got back from, or we were talking before I started recording this session. You just got back from the United States.
I did. Yeah. I was in California for a little bit. I had some work out there for a few days, and then I extended the trip and went to Yosemite and Lake Tahoe. It was a very chilled out holiday. Although I was in the mountains, I wasn't running, but beautiful place.
Yeah, I've actually, as a Californian, never been there, but I've been to Tahoe. I'll take that back. But like Yosemite, it's like it's a need at this point.
Oh, dude, you need to go. Yeah.
See, look, there you go. You got a dude in there. We're gonna be swapping by the end of this. Just you wait. Just you wait. But a bit of background for folks who are listening that don't know who you are, and I'll reference, the bio, your Instagram profile, and all of that. Is I stumbled upon your account because you're a London-based ultra runner, you're a qualified personal trainer, and you're also a run coach. But your kind of methodology, and correct me if I'm wrong, is very, I don't want to say calm, but it's very simple, matter of fact. Like, you don't over explain, you keep things very personable. And so that was one of the reasons why I thought was amazing to have you on here, because you've seen all of these, run coaches who are like screamos, get in your face, in your approach is much more well-rounded, I guess you could say. But yeah.
Yeah, well, I appreciate that. I think my aim, well, I always just try and be myself. I mean, I think that's the main thing. I think there's a lot of acting on social media, like people trying to sort of project a certain announcement style kind of preachy character, and I think that comes across. I think humans have an innate ability to recognize inauthenticity and recognize authenticity as well. I think all that works for some people, if that floats your boat, if you want to be shouted at. And, I love David Goggins, for example. I love that. I do love that energy, but it's not me. It's not the energy. If you were in the pub with me and you were asking me about running, I'd be speaking to you like this. So if I'm on social media, I'd like to speak like I would speak to you in the pub. That's how I try and think of it. If I'm trying to actually get a message across to someone and try and teach them and try and make it palatable, then I try and keep it simple, keep it pretty easy to understand. And I guess I do see a lot of really sort of pseudo motivational clips where there's the type, there's music in the background, a little quote, and and that's great. But I also do believe that, and I've said it before, I do believe that it is just running. It is just running and fitness, and it is just something that you should have in your life. It's not like a big deal. It shouldn't be a big deal if you go for a run. It also shouldn't be a big deal if you go for a run and go to the gym later in the day. It should actually just be something you do. And you don't have to go out 100% every time. Actually, that is not very productive. So, I want people, I think I'm sort of, whilst you're on social media, you sort of find your voice a little bit. And I think I've sort of settled into just trying to provide valuable information that's obviously captivating in some way, but is sort of consumable. And makes people think, yeah, do you know what? I reckon I could do that. It's not that deep. It's not that crazy.
Yeah. And one of the quotes that stood out to me was, you're good enough as you are. Don't let social media make you feel like you have to punish yourself. Learn to enjoy the hard work that you put in. So as someone who, I struggle with this. So it's one of the reasons why I wanted to have you on, is because I'm sure other people do as well. Like, you see these accounts where it's like 4 a.m. in the morning, just finished 20 miles. And while I'm going for my 6-mile run, my 8-mile run, whatever, I'm like, fuck, I didn't get up at 4. Fuck, I didn't do a triple day. And I think while it's amazing to see folks go out and push themselves to those extremes, it's good to remember not every day looks like that. And I think when we get into social media culture where you highlight the best of the best, the most impressive days and all of that, it can be kind of this toxic, not comparison, but I guess maybe it is, sort of relationship, because it's like you're never doing enough. And I think it's
Yeah,
a good way to
sorry to
remember that.
interrupt you there.
No, you're
Yeah,
good.
there's a huge amount of that. I mean, I couldn't agree more. It's funny because it's not like anything's changed. Like in humans, like we've always compared ourselves to each other, and um, we've always had insecurities and that sort of thing. Always needed to figure stuff out for ourselves. But social media has exemplified that for sure. Running never used to be the way it is. We now kind of post everything online, and everyone sees everything we're doing. Apparently everyone understands what a good pace is, whatever that means, and everyone understands like what a good
No fucking
distance
clue.
is or whatever. Everyone has an opinion,
Yeah.
and whether it's wrong or right, they've got their metrics that they decide to compare others to with themselves and all this. I think the interesting thing is, I guess from like personal experience, I've gone from being someone who was very intense with my training. Like when I was at university or college, as you'd say, I was very intense with my training. I was sort of dabbled in triathlon, and I was sort of very intense with myself as well. And I was like, get up at 4:30, inspired by Jocko Willink and like all of those characters. And I'm a military brat as well, so I think it sort of came. I've just stopped because my girlfriend hates the term military brat. I don't know why. But I'm I'm a kid. I'm a kid who grew up in a military home. So I sort of, I don't know, appreciate that discipline. I've got a lot of respect for people who do get up early and do the thing. And I did a lot of grinding, like I did a lot of grinding in my younger running years, both with my style of training, but also my mentality towards myself. It was like, it was an element of like punishment, really. It was like, go out, work hard, and then you'll feel better afterwards. There's benefit in that. Like, you got to like strike a balance. You need to be able to some days tell yourself to, I don't know, just sort of toughen up and do it, stop being such a wuss, get out there and do the thing. You have to be hard on yourself sometimes because we are often weak and we love comfort. But also, I think you'll find that those who are posting on social media about getting up a lot of them anyway, about getting up at 4 a.m. and putting a hard graft in and always doing like 20 milers and all this sort of stuff. Usually they're the ones who have more issues with themselves and are less secure in themselves than the ones who are just sort of happy to do what they're doing and keep progressing at a slower pace. I just don't think that we should compare ourselves to people who are like, in inverted commas, doing better, because they might not be doing better. You might be doing better in your head. Like, how do you view yourself? I really think it's really, and I think it's important from personal experience. I enjoy running a lot more now because it's less of a punishment. It's just more of an enjoyment, and I'm better at running than I ever have been. So why would I take that punishment approach if actually it's the process that's far more enjoyable? But it's a beautiful thing because you can enjoy the process, you can learn how to be kind to yourself, but you can also benefit from the discipline required to do great things.
Yeah. And you can tell you love running on your account. Like you can tell like you're in your element when you're running outside
Yeah,
as someone who's viewing or watching. Um but to take
yeah,
like one step back, I know you've ran Mozart 100 and then Race to the King 50K. So those are, for the person dabbling into running, like those are long fucking distances. So how did you get into running? How did you start
yeah.
into
So
the sport?
um yeah, like 10 years ago, or like, how old am I? I don't know. I
That
don't
was
know. I
so
don't
that was so honest. I love it. Yep.
know.
Same.
I think like 11 years ago or something, 12 years ago I really started. Like, I think I went out on my first like run it was like the first time I did exercise outside of like a school environment, you know.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I think like 11, 12 years. When I started running, I genuinely really hated running. I hated the concept of running until I was about kind of 18, 19. And then I was like, yeah, maybe I'll give this a go because um, I played a lot of sport in school and then didn't have any sort of physical outlet. So kind of just started at that stage, and then someone who I was working with at the time told me he was like running a triathlon events company. He told me to do a triathlon, and so I kind of dabbled in triathlon all through university. I was quite an avid triathlete and drinker, so uh, they didn't
Nice.
necessarily work well together. But I was a very average triathlete, but I loved it. I loved the like hard graft. I loved the work, and actually I made a decision to not play rugby at uni and do triathlon because I was introduced to it before I went to uni. I was sort of like, do you know what? This is a better culture. It's not, you know, not got like this huge sort of drinking culture with initiations and all that sort of all that bullshit. So much more enjoyable. Kind of got into that stuff. Did like a few marathons, and then yeah, since then it's just continued to grow really. And like when COVID came around, um I got fascinated by ultra marathons. Had never heard of them, and was like, so you're telling me there are people that run 100 miles in one push, right? That's impossible. It can't be done. And now yeah, I've got you know, 4 ultra marathons over 100K under my belt. The longest I've done was Trans Gran Canaria. That was last year. Amazing race, but very very hard. Um, yeah, and just a few sort of shorter than 100K ultras as well. And I just love it. I love the culture. I love the community. I love the ability to. I love the approach. I love the sort of the mountains, the kind of opportunity and excuse to do a trip to the mountains because you've got a trail run. And I also love the added kind of element of logistics and there's a lot more to ultra running. It's basically a different sport to like road running, really. Far less clinical, far more interesting,
Hmm. I
in my
didn't.
opinion.
So is no. I 100% agree. I think the transition. I think with COVID, it forced people to kind of have to, at least in the states, because gyms were closed and like there was not a lot to work with. It was okay. So what? Either you bought like 10 grand, 5 grand worth of weights and put them in your living room, or you went outside for a run. And so I feel like there's a bit more folks
Yeah,
outside running more than there used to be due to COVID and having to like find something to keep ourselves active. And then with the natural progression of, oh, there's these beautiful mountains up there, let me go for a hike. Like it's just been very organic, kind of that transition from road running to trail running, especially if you have this sort of appreciation for it. So like I think, at least I can only speak for myself, but like the running and trail and running on road are two very different things from a, location standpoint, terrain, but it's also like the mentality. Like I don't have music in my ears or whatever when I'm running on trail. It takes your brain out of it. You become, I think, what we were supposed to be, like not behind a desk, but we were like, humans, animals, we're supposed to be outside doing things. And I think trail running is like the best way to get back to that point. Um,
I mean,
so
I'm just nodding away because I think like this is really the crux of it for me. Like
mhm.
when I like I try and often describe my account or like what I'm trying to do on social media as like obviously helping people with their running, but I also add getting people out the door because it's the outdoors really that I'm in love with. Running is really just a very natural way. I think the best way, for example, to experience the mountains is by foot, and running is just a great way to challenge yourself and experience what the mountains really have to offer. Um, and I just am such a big advocate of um, like Tony Riddle is a guy out here in the UK, and I'm a big fan of his, and he says we can't all live in nature, but we can all live more naturally. And I think like there is something huge there that is like there are behaviors that you can do in your life, whether it's like you know trendy things like grounding or whatever, but like there are things that are really genuinely good for you, like squatting and hanging and being in touch with your body and spending time under the sky and breathing and like actually being more human. And I think I don't get in any arguments really online, but there's a lot of people that have strong opinions and they'll comment on, if I give some form advice, for example, there are a lot of people that say, "Oh, form's bullshit. You don't need to worry about it whatsoever." And I really just don't think that's true at all. We live completely different lives from our ancestors, and it's happened rapidly as well. It's not just been like a progressive sort of adaptation. This has been a rapid change for the human race to be just behind desks, behind screens, inside the whole time, sitting on chairs, not living very human lives, living very sedentary lives. Everywhere possible, we're sat down. We just don't get the step count that we used to. No one runs. It's as if only a few people, only a few humans are capable of running. As if it's a very strange thing. So we're just a completely different race from what we used to be, and we're far less healthy. And I think there's a huge amount to be said for just looking to nature for better health and better mental health as well.
And you can, at least for myself, when you're in nature, there's almost like I don't know, it's very spiritual. And I think it's this, you've turned off the functioning brain. Like we're at desks and we're using, I do Excel's shit for a living. Like I manage teams and numbers and all of that. So I get to turn that part of my brain completely off. And the moment that happens and like you're kind of just immersed in an environment, it's magic. And I think it's something that like, yeah, you can do breath work, you can do grounding, you can do all of these other sort of things, but nothing really is the same than actually putting yourself in the mountains. It's quiet. There's, leaves and trees and things brushing in the wind. Like it's just a very different environment. And I think, humans, we have to put numbers with things. So like I need to get this time and this, I need to be first place in this race. I need to do, this sort of time up the mountain. I mean, I think we still have to bring numbers into the picture because I think people like that. But yeah, there's nothing quite like it. Just being out there.
I think that kind of ties a nice thread through the conversation as well, because like in reality, we're our happiest when we're present, right? If you think about the time that you were happiest in the last month or the last year, you weren't thinking about any other moment than the moment you were in. Right? You're always your best self, your happiest self when you're really truly in the moment. And we're always our most unhappy when we're thinking about either the future or the past, and we're thinking about uncontrollable things. And I think like running in the outdoors is just a great way to get to that meditative state of being present. It's my way, at least, and not always. I think I don't always find the flow state, but it's definitely my way of just going out. I'm by myself, not looking at my phone until for 10 minutes of my run. I'm maybe recording something, but for the most part, I'm just by myself, and that's precious to me.
For folks that are more not in a place they can get to an environment that is, you can immerse yourself in nature, do you have tips that you usually tell people, like, hey, stick your feet in the grass for 15 minutes? Like, do you have anything that you use? Like, me being a Londoner,
it's a bit of a problem that I face. So like, I think sometimes people ask me questions like, how do you deal with this? Like, how do you deal with training for mountain races in London? I'm like, to be honest, it's just suboptimal. It's not like there's a perfect solution. Like, best way to train for trails is to run the trails. Best way to enjoy the mountains is to be in the mountains. But that being said, you can still get outdoors. London, especially, we're fortunate because we have, like, I would argue, the best city parks in the world. We really do have great parks, and for me anyway, I'm like 5K run to Hampstead Heath, which is just, you can get lost in it. It's like, you really don't feel like you're in a city at all. It's like undulating hills and woodland, and it's a beautiful place. So there's great parks. People do love London for its parks and its running. But I've got a phrase in the office that people use now, thanks to me. But I always suggest, if we've been inside too long behind the desk or whatever, I always say, anyone up for any sky time? Instead of saying anyone want a coffee or whatever, I just look at people and go, sky time. And what I'm really meaning, but obviously it's just like go outside. But I do really truly mean there is still benefit. There's benefit in being under the sky. Like, you need to be under the sky. You need to have some sky time. Look up. Like, be a bit more present about where you're at. We spend too much time under roofs, and I think so. At least if you can get just a bit of sky time. I quite often, like, if I'm making a coffee in the morning, I'll just step outside into my very small garden and just, like, look up into the sky. You don't have to have like heaps of land or access to mountains to enjoy being outside. You can be anywhere and meditate. You can be anywhere and enjoy the outdoors. But yeah, I do always start my day with a run, pretty much. So I think that is important for me, personally. And if I'm not starting my day with a run, I need to get outside like first thing, because I have an office job and inside all the time. So I just think there's no special tips. I'm not like, I'm going to try and tell you to do cold plunges or walk barefoot or whatever.
Yeah.
Although I don't disagree that they're going to be good for you. I mean, like, it's probably good for your mental health and stuff. Like, diving in a lake is not going to be, a bad idea. You probably feel good after it. But yeah, like, if you don't have access to things, just appreciate what you have and try and be outside more. That's all I can say, really, I think.
No, I like that. You have to make with what you have. So if it's a small garden, or you're looking up at the sky, being present. I like that.
Yeah.
It's very,
yeah.
Anyone can do that. So with the races that you've done thus far, and do you have anything planned for, like, any races planned this year?
I actually don't. I'm in a beautiful spot that I'm currently enjoying. So like, for full context, like, July last year, I got injured. I had like pretty severe tendonitis in my posterior tib, which sort of manifested in my foot, in the arch of my foot. So what that meant is I couldn't actually launch off I couldn't spring off my foot at all, which some would say is quite important for running. So I was off I was fully, like, off running for like 3 or 4 months. And then I was only doing like really, really short walk runs until the new year. And then in the new year, I started, as of like mid-January, I started ramping up, and then got to my 100K and was able to, like, call myself an ultra runner again in my own head. And that was it. And that was like, that was my return, which I was very proud of. But I made myself, like, adamant to not book anything else. That was just the one thing for the year. I'm very big on, and I try and promote people, like, taking their time. You don't have to do, like 50 ultra marathons a year. Really, you only peak about 2 or 3 times a year anyway. Whether you're a marathon runner or ultra runner or whatever, you can only really get like 2 A races or 3 A races in a year, I think. So there's no point, like, overbooking yourself, unless you just love it and you're so strong that you can deal with that. But I think I got a little bit fearful of too much causing injury and stuff like that. So I do plan to sign up for something, probably a UK race, maybe another 100K like in a few months, like later on, because I don't think everyone needs races. By no means, you don't need to be a racer to be a runner, but I do need races, and I love the racing. So, call it racing. I love the events. I'm not racing with anyone really other than myself, but yeah, I do love the events. So I like the process of training for something. Gives me a bit of discipline to get out the door. So
yeah, I'm the same.
Who knows?
I'm the same boat. I think it's so beautiful. Well, maybe not beautiful is not the right word. It's very peaceful, having sort of like a game plan, a race to play, like a race to train for. Like, it's just kind of like this is my goal, these are the steps, this is what I'm doing. Like, it's less thought-provoking, like, oh, what are you going to do today? Well, I've got 6 miles on the docket. Like, I love that part of,
Sure.
the racing is the training. I love the discipline it can bring me, the when I'm training for something, I'm the best version of myself, because that's like when I'm dialed into the T. Um, and so
Yeah.
I fully get you on like the actual training and then the race day, of course, because you mentioned you're not competing with anyone, you're just competing with yourself. So is that what the pull is for you for the ultra racing? Because you're right, anyone can run without being a racer. But what made you like want to go for a run on the street one day and then be like, yep, we're gonna do 100K? Like what was that pull?
Well, it didn't happen like that. It didn't happen like
Oh, it
that.
did.
I was I wasn't just like, first run out. Oh yeah, I think I'd run. Yeah, no, but I think like eventually I just sort of, yeah, I don't know. I just think I thought, obviously it started with a 50K, so I did my first 50K, and then it just builds from there. And it very much it's very much a competition with myself kind of thing. I don't, uh, I'm definitely not the fastest runner. I'm not the best ultra runner in the world by any means. But I love running, love the outdoors, and I think I can help others with it. So I'm just like competing with myself. If I can do a comparatively like better time, like as an ultra runner, you sort of know that every race is unique. So if someone posts, again, we're talking about comparison, but if someone posts on social media and they say, I just ran a 100K in 10 hours, but it's fairly flat, don't worry, don't start comparing your 21-hour 100K in the mountains to that half time. It's very different races, and each race is very different. Each race is very unique, different mountain range, different weather conditions. Anything can happen. So it's hard to compare your efforts, but I think you can tell when you've done a better job. And for me, each ultra, or especially in the 100Ks, each ultra I've done, I've got better, I think. And that's fun for me. I'm trying not to be too competitive, trying to make sure I have fun throughout the process, and ultimately it is a hobby and it's supposed to be fun, and it is a net positive thing for me. It's hard, but
Yeah.
but it's fun, and I think there's some beauty in there's also some beauty in the challenge of having fun in the hard times, which is definitely applicable to life, right? Like today is my first day back after a holiday, and this morning was just like a tsunami of work, and I was just constantly trying to remind myself to just like keep smiling. It doesn't really matter. Like, enjoy the process. It's just another day. And I think some of that lesson, is just like living life, but it's definitely applicable to ultra running too, and vice versa. So always life lessons in running. It's the great metaphor.
Oh yeah. That's one of the questions that I love asking people is, how did you get into running and why are you running? Like for me, running started with the gyms in COVID, but it stayed because of the mental benefits. It's the only time I can turn my brain off. Um, but then the second bit is, why are you racing? Why are you running and why are you racing? And the
Yeah,
racing bit, I think, is the not competitive with anybody else, but just me. So
yeah. I reposted a post that I guess a social media friend of mine, never actually met him, but seems like a great guy. And Leon Busty, he posted I think he's Leon Busty as his handle. Leon Bustin is his name. And he posted a great explanation. It was very raw, and he was just like hiking up a hill on a long run, and he was just explaining the different, like, the reasons why we run, and he was like going into detail about even just the process the night before of getting your stuff out, and that being, stimulating for the mind, and just like the whole process of the discipline of it. It's not really about the event, although you love the event. It's about everything that comes before. And I just love that. For me, I said the day after I did the Mozart 100, I think, or no, I think it was just the Race to the King 50. Anyway, I did this ultra with my girlfriend, and the day after I was like, I think I'm gonna sign up to another 100K later this year, and she like rolls her eyes. And I think the main reason for that is because, like, yes, I love the races, I really do, but when I look at the sort of the next 3 or 4 months, I sort of get worried. I'm like, oh, what am I going to be doing? Like, where's the discipline? Where's the routine? Where's the structure? Where's the, you know, where's that anchor? yeah, I could apply it to myself anyway. I could say just like set weekly volume goals and all that sort of stuff. But I think I need the event myself. The event allows me to live the lifestyle that I actually enjoy. So I enjoy the process. Yeah.
I'm definitely one of those folks where it's like the day after I've already got some, not even the day after. I'll like I booked my 100K that I have in October when I was still training for my 50K. Like, well, might as well. Like, it's just kind
Yeah,
of
yeah.
like, and it's not
You got it.
it's you got the bug. It's just it feels good to be the best version of yourself, and sometimes that happens when you're training. But
Definitely. Yeah, there's a little ultra running friend of mine, a friend who is an ultra runner, says to me, "Book now, think later," or "Book now,
exactly,
worry later."
exactly. So, question for you: what's the biggest life lesson that you've learned through running that you're able to apply to your life? If that made sense. Like, what's something that you've learned from having running as a sport that you're able to apply now as a human?
Bloody hell, Hannah.
I know, dropped a big one.
The biggest, or one of. Uh, what's the
Or
biggest
one
lesson
of.
I've learned from running that's applicable to life?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I think we've touched on a lot of it. I have a little newsletter that I've started, and one of the sections is running life's metaphor, and I'll try and keep
Ooh.
it on theme. Yeah, I'll try and keep it on theme to whatever the week's theme is. Like this week's theme is going to be, it'll come out in a few hours. It's easy running, and so this is a great one to talk about, I guess. The lesson there is patience. I think that is a good one. I'm not a very patient person, but running and like going through an injury, or learning how long it takes for your body to actually properly adapt, and putting in consistent time and effort, and being patient with that. That's also applicable to life. To be successful, in my opinion, to be successful at anything, you have to marry consistency with patience. And it's only something I've really started to learn in my late 20s. Like, I'm so impatient and so inconsistent um, in my early 20s, and I think I'm getting better at that. And I think I really believe that you have to be consistent and you have to stay patient. Not enough, yeah, not enough people are patient. And I see it in runners as well. I see like just so many people just like they've run a marathon and they're like, right, I'm gonna do a sub 3. Fucking hell, mate, just like chill out. Like give it time. So I think I probably heard it on social media. I don't know, consume a lot of it, but the phrase, the fastest way to get to where you want to be is slowly. I just like that, because it's like aim high, but allow yourself a long time. We're talking about enjoying the process. Then, if you're speeding up the process too much, then you're going to enjoy it less, and it'll be over too soon. So, um, I think, yeah, I'll go with one, but there's just so many that I can reliably I can reliably write a paragraph of a metaphor on a weekly newsletter about running. But yeah, patience is probably one. Lots in life takes a long time. And body adaptation and reaching your running goals and that sort of stuff, that takes a long time. So you should take your time with it.
One of the ones that I think has been astounding for me at least, and I think 5 years ago I was like, oh, I'm never fucking running a marathon. Like, oh no, I'm not doing this. Like, why would I ever? Like, I'm 6'2". I played basketball in college. I'm not. This is
Wow.
not a sport that I'm like, oh, I
Yeah.
have the body type for this. Like, this was never a thing. Like, we ran to chase a ball. Like, that was it. So the biggest life lesson for me is like, how do you know what you're capable of unless you push yourself? And that, like, with running and like distance and setting goals and then accomplishing those goals has been transcendent into like my life, and like having a podcast, reaching out to you and meeting people that are doing the same things. And I think a lot of the common thread is they're doing things outside their comfort zone because they know that what they're capable of is more than what like they've been told or what society tells you. So that's been like an
Yeah.
astronomical thing for me. Is it's just running is a very easy way to remind myself that I'm way more capable of than I give myself credit for.
100%. I love that one. like giving yourself evidence that you're capable.
Mm-hmm.
Every time you cross a finish line, you're giving yourself more evidence that you're capable of doing more. I love that
Mm-hmm.
feeling of accomplishment, and proving to yourself that not just thinking, I reckon I could do that, like actually doing it and then having that
Yeah.
evidence behind you is cool.
Yeah, definitely. So, as someone who's been, like, you can tell because your whole face lights up when you talk about running and what it does and the community you have, to now being a running coach, what made you want to dabble into the coaching world of running?
Yeah, so I guess my coaching has taken an interesting journey. Um, so I, like, a few years ago, stepped away from my corporate job and was having a bit of a, like, I like to say, I was having a bit of a quarter life crisis. I guess I really was. It was like after COVID, and I had like a breakup, and I was living with my parents, and I left London, had no friends, and I was just like didn't know what I was doing in my life, and I was adamant to try and find a career that I was interested in. I've just constantly done stuff I really didn't care about, and so I knew I was always like interested in like fitness, and running, of course. And so I qualified as a personal trainer, and then became a personal trainer in a gym. And whilst I had a few like running clients, like specific clients, and then I had just one person I was like training in the gym, and I just realized I guess that lifestyle just really wasn't for me. And came back to keep a long story short. I came back to like the corporate working world. Finally, sort of got my feet on an even keel again, and wanted to keep up my running coaching, and so I've kept that kind of very lightly. I've kept that up with a few clients, um, just like for enjoyment really, and just to see if I could kind of scale it out at all. And obviously, I still have a full-time job, and it's very much like something I do on the side and is not the priority. But as I've sort of scaled and sort of tried to help more people and have helped more people, for free online, I do want to create something that's not. It's not like proper one-to-one coaching that can be quite expensive and, in my opinion, sometimes unnecessary. What I do want to try and provide, though, is something like a sort of community or platform where people can go and really feel like they can essentially coach themselves if they don't have a coach, or in those times where they don't have a coach. Um, because I really fundamentally believe, and you said at the start that you think I simplify things. I think I do, but I think it is just quite simple. I think that I think there are just some key principles that you need to learn about your training, and then there's some things you need to just grasp to understand how to build a plan for yourself, and you can be a pretty great runner. And more importantly, you can have longevity with your running. You can run sustainably. So I think my real goal and aim is to have like a pretty low barrier price, like a monthly subscription where you can kind of join a community of people that are all trying to essentially train themselves and teach themselves, so they don't have to pay for a coach. And you might have people using an app, using some sort of training plan, but ultimately to keep that adaptable and really understand how to be a runner, you need to have good knowledge yourself and good understanding yourself and good resources for that. So I really want to try and create something that's a little bit more, for me, scalable, and actually something that's more helpful for the individuals that are part of it. So my coaching is changing a bit, but I ultimately love helping people. I don't think one-to-one coaching is very scalable. I want to help as many people as I can, but I love helping people with their running. It lights me up, and so I want to try and do that as much as I can.
Yeah, because I mean, the community that you have on your Instagram account, like you can tell, like it's for the most part, you always have the random haters in there, but for the most part, it's like this lovely, like, oh, thank you so much for sharing. Like it's this great kind of environment in itself.
In reality, I'm quite limited. Like, I love doing the social media. I'm quite limited with the style of my content and the type of content I can put out. There's so much you can do, um, to create a community, create some more content, and I want to be able to do that. Um, And yeah, man, the people that follow me generally, like, I just get a lot of positivity, which is really cool. You know, if a video does well, then I get non-followers coming in, and they're always dickheads. But they're not always. Just some of them have strong opinions. And so uh, so they don't follow, but that's okay. Yeah, but those who do, I really appreciate them. And I think for those who really appreciate my content, I think, like, if they're keen to engage more, then I want to provide more for them. So we'll see how it goes, but yeah, doing it slowly as a side hustle. So
I like it. Side hustles for the win until they're your main hustle.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, so can you fill in the blanks for me for this sentence? As a runner, you should focus less on blank and more on blank.
Well, I say quite often you should focus. I mean, it's kind of double barreled, but
Okay.
you should focus less on pace and distance and more on time and effort. Do you want me to expand?
Yes, please. If my face didn't provide,
So, that's not to say that pace and distance aren't important. Obviously, if you're really clinical and you're if you're a half marathon or marathon runner or something, and you're a road runner, you've got to hit certain paces, and it's important on some sessions to really go for those paces. And obviously, you need to know how far you're going, if and what it feels like to run a certain distance, of course. But what I see quite often is an over focus on those things. So people quite often, especially sort of early, beginner runners, they have, but I think it's for everyone really. They'll see a distance as their aim, and they won't really think about that. They just want to do 5K as fast as they can every time they go out. Or new runners will often say, they're just running at a pace, and it's basically as fast as they can really sustain, pretty much. And they may have hit 4K, and it's like a record, or I'll just say miles, 4 miles, and it's like a record for them. And then they'll maybe come to me and say, I'm going to try and run 6 miles, and then 7 miles the next day, and then 8 miles. And it's just like not the right approach. Really, I see too many people getting disheartened by the fact that they have to break into a walk, and so they're slow, and then they get disheartened, and then they put barriers themselves, and I can't get any further than 10 miles. And really it's just in the head, because once they reach 10 miles and they think they're done, and and I think it's just really helpful to, rather than think of pace and distance, think of time on the feet. Think of time on the feet, and think of the effort that you're putting in. It is beneficial to put those light reps in for a long period of time. If you go to the gym, for any gym goer listeners, if you go to the gym, you're not just going to go in there and do a 1 rep max every time. You're going to go in there and do 5 sets of 10 at a very light weight. And then the next time you go in, you're going to change it up. And then eventually, once a month, you'll do a 1 rep max, and you'll realize that you've built a really good foundation. So you're a stronger, bench presser or whatever you're doing. And it's the same with running. You've got to put the miles in. You've got to put the time on the feet in. You've got to put those low weight reps in. And walking counts. Steps count. When I was training for my latest ultra, I made it a real thing to walk into the office as much as I could. There's an hour there, an hour back if I'm on my way back, if I'm walking on my way back, on top of my running. And that's time on the feet. It might feel easy, but I really do think that helps. So a lot of people, they need to just focus on time on the feet, and when they're doing their easy runs, just make sure you're zoning into your effort rather than your pace.
Do you go into this, because I'm curious, like, for folks, if they want to learn more about, some of that concept and the discussion points you talk about in your newsletter, is there a sign up on your website that people can, fill out and they get your newsletter?
Yeah, it's basically what my website is right now.
Okay.
It's just the sign up to the newsletter. If you sign up, and you'll get the next one. And then what I do is I upload like the week previous every time I post it. So so the week like last week's is now up as of last night, and then the new newsletter will go out in like an hour automatically. So but it's very short read. It's nothing intense. It's just very kind of 3 to 5 minute read. Um, yeah, about this sort
I
of
think
stuff, I
that's
guess.
great. I don't think it has to be like it's what you've mentioned before is like not everything has to be intent. Like it can be a light, non-intimidating thing running, and I think just how humans operate, we don't do things, not everyone does things lightly. So it's like I'm not just going out for 5 miles, I'm going out for 50. Or so I think that part of what you do is you bring that lighthearted, welcoming energy to the running world. So that's awesome. Okay, so we've officially gotten to the part of the podcast called rapid fire questions.
Oh no, is it the end?
Just about. I mean, I've used 46 minutes of your I want to be mindful. You're a busy dude. You just got back from holiday. I mean,
No,
I
yeah, I
appreciate it.
know. I should get back to work, I guess.
Are you working still right now? What is it, like 5 over there?
Yeah, I just blocked out an hour for this, so we're like, uh, yeah, it's almost 4.
See? Oh. See, because you guys don't have California. We have the spring forward, fall back, like the time change thing of 1 hour every. I don't
Yeah, we
understand
have
it, but
that here.
yes.
We have that here.
Oh,
Uh,
you do.
yeah, we've apparent, but it confuses things even more because then you go from like 1 hour difference. I don't know. You go from like it's suddenly like a much bigger difference. Like the time
Mm-hmm.
difference between like Australia and the UK is sometimes it's 9 hours, sometimes it's 11 hours. I can never know why.
Yeah,
But yeah, was it like
it's
8 a.m. for you?
just about 7:53 a.m.
Decent.
It's late. Yeah, it's late. But what's weird is like some states in the US will partake in the time change and some won't. So like Hawaii is
Oh,
sometimes
that's
2 hours
no.
away. And then now it's 3 hours. Like it's like God,
Yeah, I
it's
mean, I
yeah.
would be if I lived in the States and that was I would be very annoyed that anyone was changing their clocks because I'd be like,
Mm-hmm.
if we're not all doing it, then why
Right.
is anyone doing it?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you lived in the States, where would you live?
Oh, I would probably be on the West Coast. I mean, I haven't visited heaps of the US, so
Oh.
I can't give a fair judgment. But I have been to California recently, and I dream of going to Utah. Um, but yeah, I think I'd probably live in San Diego. I love I loved it there when I was there. But I'd live somewhere like that, or I definitely wouldn't live in New York. I think it's a bit too intense. It's just like London on steroids. Um, and yeah, I'm pretty fascinated by all of the sort of West Coast mountainous areas. To be fair, um, but hard to say. I don't know
Yeah.
the cultural nuances of each state. That's the thing.
So I guess it just depends. I've never been to London, so I can't tell what you'd be familiar with. But like, I feel like you would appreciate the Central Park in New York. But I don't. If you're trying to
Yes,
get
I do
away
want to go
from the
there.
city, oh,
No, I do want to go there.
it's magic.
There's a famous running loop that there's a famous Strava segment, which is just I think the loop of Central Park, which is like surprisingly hard because I think it like undulates quite a lot.
Mm.
Anyway, some bloke did like a record 100 miler around that loop or something.
Like he just ran
Kind
it.
of recently. Yeah, yeah,
I
yeah. If you
kind of
think
like
you
that.
found crazy, yeah. If you think you found crazy, there's always crazier. Yeah, yeah. But I would like to run that route. I think it's quite a popular running spot in New York.
Hmm. It'd be cool if you ever put like a dream tour where like Central Park, Utah, like you're like the Tommy tour. This is where I want to
I
go.
would love, I would really genuinely love to do like a proper US road trip, to be fair.
Hmm.
Just like rent a massive truck because you have to, and then like just
Yes. Oh
tour
yeah.
just like the whole of it.
Get you some
Um,
boots for part of it, and then get you some flops,
yeah, yeah, yeah,
some flip
exactly.
flops. Oh man.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, bring me these
Rapid fire.
rapid fires. I'm not a very fast thinker, so
All right. Let me get
it
my
might be quite slow.
coffee. Okay. What as I drink my coffee? What do you take in your tea?
Oat milk, I guess. That's it.
Okay.
Well, it
Just oat
depends. What
milk?
tea are we talking about? What tea are we
Just
talking about?
like,
Because if it,
mm, I didn't realize there was a
do you know
different
what?
type of
Yeah.
tea.
Well, if you're talking about like English breakfast tea, your standard tea,
Yeah.
it would usually just be an oat milk. I used to drink dairy, like cow's milk, but I don't. So it would just be a oat milk. But I don't actually have that much tea. So if you're talking about like a fruit tea, like a peppermint tea or something, I wouldn't have anything in it. I'd just have that. Yeah.
Okay. Is it, should I, between you and I asked this question because you're English.
You
Between
seem
you and I and everyone
you seem
listening.
you seem confused by my answer.
Well, I
What was
was like,
confused about? I don't
what?
drink much tea.
Uh, well, because you're like, there depends on the type of tea. And I just pictured, like the tea and the saucer and the biscuit. And maybe that's me reaching
Oh no,
on
no,
like
there are
the,
loads of teas. Oh man, if anyone listening is a tea expert, they're getting offended. There's so many teas. You should look them up. I
no,
was just about to try and list them.
no,
But you have like you have like Earl Grey and like all
no.
the fruit teas, you know.
No, I know there's different types of teas. I just pictured like the English breakfast tea.
Yeah,
So I
right,
was
okay,
like
yeah.
picturing you like with your hibiscus tea and like your like then the English saucer. I was like, oh, that was just English breakfast. No, no. I
Well, the
know
real,
there's tea types.
I think the real contentious question, if you have another Brit on,
Okay.
is ask them how do you make your tea,
I'm gonna write that down. Okay.
and then you'll get engagement. I think
How do you make
you'll
your
get loads of
tea?
people kicking off about how whoever it is makes their tea. I think people have arguments about it. Like some
Mm,
psychopaths put the milk in with the water and then the tea bag. You know, it just
yeah.
things are crazy
I
around
saw
here. Different types of tea making techniques.
I saw this video clip. I think it was Maggie Grace who plays Professor McGonagall, and she was like, "You have to
Okay.
put the tea in the water, like the tepid, like the full spiel." And I'm like,
Yeah, people get pretty opinionated about it all. Yeah.
"Yeah." Do you have a go-to running shoe?
I do. Well, the brand that is my go-to. I'm not
Mm.
exclusive to this brand at all. I've got like various different shoes, but the brand that is my go-to is Ultra, spelled with an ALTRA.
Mm.
Ultra running. The reason being, and I use all their kind of shoes at the moment. I'm like quite a fan of their Mont Blancs, which I've run my recent races in. But they have like more of a foot-shaped shoe, so they've got like a wider toe box, and they're also zero drop. So the offset between the toe and the heel is zero. So as if you would, if you're barefoot, you got zero drop. There's no slant down to the toes, which most shoes do have, and I think is ultimately unnatural. Um, so big fan of Ultra because there's zero drop and wide toe box, and you don't get many of those out there.
Mm. So I have Achilles tendonitis, and so I've been told to leverage the heel drop. But in your thought, is it going
Yeah,
like you should train your foot to go without it? And
I think whilst you have tendonitis, it's definitely going to
yeah.
be helpful to have a bit of a slant there, so it's less demanding.
Mm.
But if you want to strengthen your Achilles, if you want to strengthen your calf, your lower calf, then you have to demand something of it. And I think we live in an age where instead of treating the issue, we just treat the symptoms and we try and like alleviate pain quite a lot. So, I'm not a physiotherapist. I'm not professional expert. I'm not like a healthcare professional or an expert, but I've spoken to a lot of physios who my old physio used to agree with this, that we have like very foamy shoes. So like a lot of the technology that's coming out is making it very comfortable to wear those shoes, which is great and it feels good. But it's then demanding far less of the body. And then the body is weakening and then you're falling into injuries and all sorts. So I think we too quickly sort of, for me, for example, this is a perfect example. I had, I'm a little bit flat footed. I've got like a weakness in the arch and it could have been one of the reasons why I think probably was the reason why I got tendonitis in my posterior tib in my foot. Instead of like what everyone does, which is getting arch support and insoles and stuff, instead of doing that, I really am adamant to try and fix the problem by strengthening my arch and paying more attention to that weakness. Anytime there's an injury, it's due to a weakness. Any problem you're having is because you've got a weakness. An injury is a weakness. So, and I think we're too scared to say that. Ultimately, if you've got pain in your inner knee, you're weak somewhere. So you need to strengthen it up. Don't just put a band-aid around it, or don't just put a support on it and then expect it to get stronger. You heal it, make sure it heals, and then slowly build and demand more of it until it's strong. That's my philosophy anyway.
Yeah, I mean, you can also see because I've done research, because I've had Achilles tendonitis since college. So I've slowly, through strengthening and running, have found solutions to help. But when you go and look at trail shoes, they, for the most part, are zero heel drop. They're already there, and they're not going to change their shoe type to accommodate. So
they're much less. Yeah, they're much less. You have to be more nimble. When you're running trails, so you're not going to get much of a heel drop. The road runners, they're just trying to make you really efficient on a flat road. So it could be all opinions, but it's my theory.
Beach or jungle?
Oh, I'm going to go beach. Ultimately,
I like it.
I bloody love the beach.
Right. Favorite beach? I added that in. Hard-hitting questions.
I don't know what my favorite beach is. I'm going to say my favorite beach is a beach down in Cornwall called Gwithian Beach. Okay. And it's just where I spent my childhood, my childhood summers. And so every time I go there, I have this overwhelming feeling of nostalgia. So it's not necessarily it is a nice beach when the sun's up. It's got great waves, but it's the one that I feel most emotional about.
Aw.
Yeah.
Love that. Okay, favorite color?
Blue. If you think that another color is better, you're lying or wrong.
That's my favorite color too.
Yeah.
Okay, favorite item to cook? Or do you not cook at all?
I cook. I think my favorite item to cook is rice. Because I'm sick at cooking rice. I'm so good at cooking rice, you have no idea.
So, humor me. What makes you good at cooking rice?
Right,
than just following instructions. Oh, okay.
No, I just a couple of years ago, I feel like I just got it down. You know how I used to cook rice and I just struggled so much, so I'd buy these shitty 10-minute rices that would just all come they just weren't nice and they wouldn't, or I get microwave rice and stuff like that. But I actually learned properly how to cook rice, the easiest method, and I smash it every time. Well, not every time, but almost every time now I absolutely smash my rice. So I enjoy making the rice. And even though my girlfriend Lou is a far better cook than me, she will sometimes say, "Do you want to do the rice?" So look at that.
Okay.
That's like my role in the kitchen when we're cooking. The rice and the washing up.
Perfect. That's awesome. Oh my God. My husband's a big rice lover, but he has one of those, the rice cooker.
Yeah, nice. Yeah. I mean, perfect.
Yeah.
Yeah, decent.
They do the thing. Okay. What is one thing you want listeners to know about you? They haven't learned already.
I don't know what I want people to know about me. I think you can know or think what you want about me. I think there's always a worry. I guess there's always a worry when you're I guess I just want people to know I'm a normal bloke. I'm just a pretty average guy. I think on social media or on podcasts or whatever, you're always worried that you're coming across the wrong way. So yeah, I think I don't know. I think I just want people to know that I'm pretty average. Like there's nothing really that special about me if you think there is. So, um, just a regular dude, I reckon.
There you go. That was good.
There it is.
That was the accent.
That was
That was
it.
real
That was
good.
it.
There you
I
go.
told you it was
That was
bad.
good. No, I think when people do accents, especially American accent, it's full country. And that's like one chunk. So that was a nice
Well,
even keel.
I can maybe do New York,
Oh.
smoking cigars like a fucking gentleman.
It's like Robert De Niro.
That was bad, but
It wasn't
I
bad.
can work on it.
It's just a different geographic location than the first one. It's like, your accent tends to like change. Like, oh, we're in the South, we're in the East Coast.
Yeah,
Like you like to hit all of them in one go. Oh
depends what
god,
like where the latest film I've watched is set.
that's fair. That's very fair. Because there's some extreme ones out there for the American accent. Holy shit. Okay, last question. What are 3 things that you're grateful for?
Ah, I'm very grateful for my job. Um, I think like a lot of people assume that I don't have a job, but I do, and I do because I love the people I work with. I've got a very good job. It's yeah, just a great opportunity here. So I'm very grateful for my job. It gives me a lot of freedom and yeah, a lifestyle that is good for me. I'm very grateful for. I've already mentioned my girlfriend too many times, and if she listens to this, she'll be like, "You better say I'm grateful." I'm very grateful for my girlfriend.
That's good. See, yeah, that's
Massively
great.
grateful for. Yeah, it's the first thing that came to
Oh,
mind, so I should say it. And I'm grateful. I'll finish on this. I'm really grateful for my health, and I think we all should be. And one of the reasons I run is because I can. One of the reasons I do like ultra runs and stuff is because I can, and not everyone can. And I'm very grateful that I have good health. And I think that one's easy to forget. So thanks for letting me reflect on it.
yeah. Well, that's it. That's the podcast.
That's the wrap.
I mean,
Well, it's been a
that's
pleasure.
the wrap.